Hello, peculiars. It's so nice to see all of you again, or sort of see you through the ether, that is. I'm here tonight because I cannot wait to get this straight shit on shit. It's going to be so exciting. You'll notice that I'm wearing one of the peculiar scarves, and I'm all cozy. It's very cold here, and I think it's probably cold in some of our other listener areas. Also, I am a little bit allergic to prune juice, so I'm having cocoa because it looks like poop. See? Yeah. I'm excited. I know Davey is excited too.
Hi, Brandy.
Nice.
Yeah,
hat.
I've got my peculiar hat on. I got my gear. I'm ready to go. I think we'll continue our streak of great shows tonight.
Oh.
Funny where that came from.
I know. It's, I have to say, apart from the fact that I say the word shit all the time anyway, now it's going to be relevant to a show. And, you can't make content like that without good fibrous content.
I thought
Amanda Johnson said she's afraid about who's going to be the absolute unit.
I thought between the dog and the baby, I was the expert on poop right now, but I think our author tonight is the real expert on it.
I think she is. And you guys, I cannot wait for you to hear all of the things that she has to tell you. Welcome, Lina. That was your ink explosion.
Explosion. That's cool.
I am loving this. Share with us. Do they have names?
The poop hats. Well, sort of. They have. Well, this is my poop hat assistant 1, and this is my poop hat assistant 2, and I even have a squishy poop hat. The stress related poop hat. So if I get nervous, I'm just gonna sit here and squish it.
I love this.
Stories now. They all have stories now. So this was just a gift, but this one I bought while I was working on the book. I was shopping for my nieces and whatnot, and I saw the hat and I bought it. I only bought one for me because I was writing the book, because I couldn't possibly imagine that anyone else would want it. And guess what? Every kid wanted it. They went into a fight with each other. They want to take this hat from me, and I said, no, I can't give it to anyone. It's mine. It's going to go on the book cover, and it did, and it's now on me. So that's the story of this poop hat. And this was
sparkly poop hat too, which is great. Leanne had asked you to tell me about your, but I haven't even gotten to the question, but we managed to hear about it, which is awesome. You said you get a lot of random poop gifts now. Is that true?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
So everybody goes, oh, what should we get her? Oh, look. So anytime someone sees a poop anything, that they think of you, right?
But pretty much, I'm like the poop face of the planet.
I did a whole book on brain transplant, but I never got any brains in the mail or anything, which is, kind of sad. I mean, a squishy brain, I feel like that'd make a good.
Right.
Brandy, you're cracking me up. There's no quiet way to sip hot cocoa on a broadcast.
Got
it. Okay.
Sorry,
it's okay.
Guys.
It is what it is.
Does it sound like a fart? Because that would be super appropriate. Maybe a little bit.
You sound like we all sound when we drink hot cocoa, like we're 12.
Like we're 12. Howdy from Houston, says Susan Cotter. Let's see. Amanda Johnson says, I'm having a Red Sea Rift Imperial Coffee Stout since coffee brings on the poop. Nice. Good job. Good job. Slurp, says Anthro Girl. Hang on a second. I have to save my plant. Stop that. So my assistant is actually causing all kinds of mayhem over here. Darwin. I may have to lock him out. We'll see. But anyway, Bonnie says she sells squishy brains at the gift shop. See, I should have a squishy brain for when I get nervous. I think the squishy poop is a cool idea. Yeah. So tell me, I want to just start. I mean, I know you say some of this in the book, but I think it's important for all of us to hear this. Could you just share with us a little bit about how you got started? What drove your interest in poop?
Well, I think I was destined to write a book on poop because of how I grew up in a small farm in what was then the Soviet Union. And my grandfather, who had one degree in agriculture, another one in engineering, fertilized our family farm with the content of our family septic system. So everything that got accumulated there over a year would be put onto our land as fertilizer. Mm-hmm. So every fall, just as it would start to rain, because in Russia it just basically it starts raining in September and never stops until it turns to snow. He would open that septic system. He would put on like a special suit that he had, special boots, big gloves, 2 big buckets, and start unloading that content onto our land. Some of it around our fruit trees, but most of them went into this rotating compost piles, and he had this whole system. It would go like together with kitchen scraps, all this like dead, and then he would close them and let them sit for 3 years and open them again in the spring. And by then there was no sewage or anything left there, right, other big pile of really huge black dirt, and right, that was basically this was our next harvest. Coming home from school in those days, I could smell grandpa doing our annual plumbing maintenance from like 2 miles away. It wasn't disgusting because it was just so part of life. It's full of wet leaves and of sewage that season, because that's how the autumn season went.
Right.
And so I never developed any disgust, to poop. I always, appreciated the fact that it became food the next, season, or 3 years down the road. So, and I thought the whole world lived the same way.
Right.
Well, in big apartment buildings, they would have like bigger septic systems, and they would have some machinery who would do what my grandpa did manually. So imagine my shocker when I learned that it's not true.
Yeah.
It didn't make any sense to me then, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to me now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I read your book with so much heartfelt feeling, because partly because my grandfather also had a farm, but also I have chickens. I have 7 chickens, and chickens do nothing but poop. I mean, it's astonishing. Like, you look at the volume of what is a bird and you think, how does all that come out? But we live in the city. So in order to keep chickens, we use sand in their enclosure, and we scoop it twice a day, just like you do a cat box. And we collect it all, and our neighbors use it on their gardens, and we put it in compost. And so, but sorry, but I know. Why will I not let you eat the plant? But what I thought was fascinating is just how much you talk about, like, that's nutrition, that's nutrients. And we have been, at least, here in the United States, and I think in Europe too, we've not thought about it that way in so long. And it's so cool to have you bringing that back. Yeah, I agree with Stephanie. Stephanie Smith says, I found the book fascinating because I compost with food scraps and my animals' poops, which is
it makes sense. Yeah.
I see. Squealing noises over Darwin. I know. I bless him. He's at that stage where he has figured out everything is a toy, and maybe a chew toy.
A chew toy, yeah.
A chew toy, yeah. We have a question here from Kristen Meston. She says, as I read, I kept thinking that each new thing was the coolest thing in the book. And I had the same thing. I'm like, oh no, this is, oh no, next chapter has more. what did you enjoy researching the most?
I think so. There were some things that I knew when I started writing the book, because before writing the book, I wrote a proposal.
I know that.
But I think the most amazing to me was the historical part, because even though I sort of had it in the book proposal, but I unearthed, or maybe like they drove, you know, was I, up to my eyeballs and all that historical shit, which didn't know existed, because you start researching and one thing leads to another, and so on. And so I found this incredibly amazing stuff about how ancient cultures and not so ancient cultures dealt, with their own dark matter,
Yeah.
and how different of a view they had, which was more similar to what we had. And I didn't know that anybody throughout history got so close to how we looked at it. So to me, this was really, really amazing.
Yeah. Well, and it's the sponge. So I had heard this before, but it bears it's a story that bears repeating, I think. So you have that wonderful chapter where you're describing the weird communal toilets where everybody would just be like shitting side by side.
Oh, right.
But then the channel that was full of water.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the sponge.
Talk to you about the sponge. So I discovered these toilets in Asafas in Turkey, some years ago. And one thing that we couldn't figure out, my husband and I were like, okay, what the holes were? Okay, that's clear. They were like nicely butt sized. Okay, but what was this really like weird, gutter that was sort of at your feet? What was it for? And it took a while, for me to find an expert on this ancient toilet subject who answered that question to me. So that gutter had clean water flowing through it, so people could wipe their butts. With this tool called tersoria, which was basically a stick with a sea sponge attached to it, and they would wipe their butts and they would wash the sponge in that water. And yeah, communal sponge.
As Jennifer.
It over to the next person. When I was so many questions, when I was standing there, I was like, what did they talk about? Did they discuss like politics? The fact that the price of like grain is going up. Did they discuss the marital affairs?
The weather, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, like, I would love to be a fly on the wall in that toilet.
On the wall, mind. Not anywhere else.
Get some, taste. What was discussed in those places?
Sorry. Speaking of taste, we should talk about this week's cocktail. And so I think now is a great time to roll the announcement slide. So we'll be right back. But our announcement, slide 1 here. One of the things I always try to remind people is that there's a lot of ways to connect with us. Obviously, you're here now and we're live and we're fun. But we also have a Facebook page. And from the Facebook page, you can get to our Facebook group where all y'all have the most interesting conversations. I just want to say, I learn stuff every day. We've got moon landing things. We have an awful lot of people were interested in poop, like way more than some of y'all have experience with these things. And I think Amanda's one of them, isn't she? we'll see. But anyhow, you can check us out there. We are on Twitter, as long as Twitter still is a thing. But also, after our shows, we have a short Discord party. And the great thing about the Discord party is that you can see each other, not just us. And that's really nice. Sometimes we carry on the discussion afterwards and it continues to go on. Other times people just chat, just kind of get a chance to see one another face to face. So there's our Discord. Davey just put the Facebook links and the Discord link up in the chat, so you guys can copy and paste it there, but that's that. Moving right along. One of the announcements is that we do have a Patreon now, and we did this for a variety of reasons. Many of our shows are free, most of them are, and will be in the future as well. In fact, we're even getting rid of the buy donation button, because the donation button won't let you stream it to Facebook. sadly. So we'll be streaming these to Facebook. There are some content that you only get if you are a member. So if you're up on the, if you're a member on Patreon, we have a couple different tiers. Or if you're a member who subscribes to the annual, which is another way of doing it, you save a little bit of money. You get cool swag if you do that, like a scarf and a hat. But yes, this is another way you can get to us. And next is the cocktail. Yes, the book cocktail. Okay. First of all, this was a thing of beauty. I wasn't allowed to have it because I can't have prune juice. But frankly, I love the fact that Kat, our Maven Kat, who brings on all of these wonderful cocktails for us, make sure that she's really doing the stuff for each one. But what I love even more is y'all came up with the most creative names I've ever seen. So let's see. Some of them were Fecal Delight. Oh no, that Rest Stop on Ice. That was pretty good, guys. That was pretty good. Pipe Cleaner, Bowel Blaster, Number 2 Do, Backdoor Ringer, Poop Drop Driver, and the Poop Knife. And so these were just some of the names that were suggested by our peculiar members. Oof, says Jennifer. Yeah. But there was one winner, and the winner was Pipe Cleaner. So the winner for the day's cocktail name is Pipe Cleaner. Maybe we can call my hot chocolate Fecal Delight. Who knows? So
I love it.
Yeah, right? That's pretty good. Again, Peculiar Book Club Season 4 is going to be starting in January. There's still time to buy the annual subscriptions if you want to do that. That is what gets you all the fun swag. But again, so much of this content is free. We're really looking forward to next semester. Oh, I used to be a professor, didn't I? Next time too. And is that all, Davey? Did I have other slides? No, that was it. That was all.
You got it.
Okay, good. So we're very excited to have you here. As you can tell, there's let's see. I was just checking to see. Stephanie Smith says I'm biting my tongue from saying too many shitty puns. Amberly just got here. Amberly says hi. She was running a little bit late. There was, let's see. I missed a couple people. Lorelei Peterson popped in. Where are you? There you are. No, you didn't miss very much. There's lots of shit to go. And back to questions. Okay, I saw 2 of them up here. Here's one. So Leanne asked, what did you say in your pitch to the University of Chicago Press? Like, how did that pitch must have been? Like, did the shit hit the fan? I mean, that's what we want to know.
You can say that shit hit the fan, yes. So it wasn't really a pitch per se. It was a book proposal of at least 15,000 words, if not more. On which I spent a couple years, perfecting it. I sort of got lucky with this book because before that I've tried other ideas and other agents and nothing ever went anywhere. But with this one I got lucky because I've written a couple of actually more than a couple of stories on poop, and two of them went on to win like multiple awards. And I started thinking about maybe a book. And right about that time, I met a woman who used to be science book acquisition editor at Macmillan, and she was on her way to become an agent because she did it for too long and she didn't want to do it anymore. She wanted to do something similar, be part of big publishing house. And I asked her, to send me some book proposals that she bought so that I would know what a good proposal would look like. And she did.
Smart.
And then she became an agent and asked me, have I done my book proposal already? And I said, well, it's sort of kind of there, in, I don't know, semi-constipated state.
Transformed.
Yeah, exactly. And she liked the subject. She thought the subject was hilarious, and there was no books published on that subject any time recently. So she worked with me to finish it. And then she took it to all of the big publishers. And all the big publishers said no. And they said that they liked the idea. They liked the writing. They liked the subject. They thought the whole thing was hilarious. But they didn't know how to talk about it in their editorial meetings.
Taboo.
about exactly like people. Do you have any sense of humor? And they didn't know how to market it. They didn't know what to do on the cover, and so they all passed on it. All the big publishers passed on it, and then she took it to the academic presses, which was like the next step. And there, who would have thought, right? We had 3 offers. They were bidding against each other.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and so we went with the University.
That's a beautiful thing when that happens. You described, so this is also the straight poop on what it takes to get a book published, to those of you who are interested. And some of our peculiars are also writers. In fact, some of our peculiar members ended up being on our show later as authors. But yeah, it's a long, ugly, complicated. I almost said constipated. It's a long, constipated problem.
We need pipe cleaners.
Yes, more of the. Well, and frankly, the publishing industry is pretty slow moving as it is anyway. Like a little bit more fiber in their diet as it is. But it's true. It's so difficult to get people to talk about taboo subjects. Many of us who write about death have run against the same thing. They're like, it's better, oddly to say this, it's talking about death has become easier since COVID because you cannot avoid it anymore. Yeah. But yeah, these taboo subjects are really hard to get people on board with, and everyone poops. Like everyone, y'all have pooped. Everyone watching this show, you poop. You poop. You poop over there. All of you poop. So there's no reason not to, to be interested and excited about a book like this one. I just lost a comment. Oh, there it is. Jennifer Pierce had made a comment. She said, I admit I didn't realize other nations, past or present, were so good at using human waste as fertilizer. I knew Americans were wasteful in general. Now I know we even waste our poop.
We do. We're really good at wasting our waste.
How does one, I feel like it requires some kind of massive paradigm shift to get people to start thinking in positive ways about poop. And so one of the other things that I noticed about your book, and I think is fascinating, the subtitle also talks about making wealth out of poop. Because frankly, if you're going to convince Americans to do something with their poop, you kind of have to turn it into money, don't you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I wanted to tell people with the book and with the title that kind of like this basic, and you would think obvious fact. There's money to be made, right? Nobody wants it. People will pay you to take it away. So if you can take it away and make money with it, and then turn it into some kind of useful substance that you can sell, you have 2 streams of revenue. That's pretty rare that you can generate 2 streams of revenue from kind of like this opposite directions. And the other thing about this whole poo business is that, at least in Western society, it's very nicely and conveniently aggregated in places. It's not like you have to go and gather it on the farm. That's what you have to do with animal manure. It's there.
It's there with the taking. Kristen Meston actually following that up, she says a few of the uses are as biofuels. Do any of those manufacturers have a plan too for when we phase out of fossil fuel? Like, are they upscaling? Are they downscaling? Are they going sideways with these?
In terms of like turning poop into biofuels.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that right now it's kind of like on the upswing. And I would say earlier in the 20th century, there were some wastewater treatment plants that were really savvy and like turning poop into biogas. But for some reason, a lot of them sort of got phased out, disappeared, I don't know, fell into disrepair or whatever. It became cheaper to burn it. And right now I see, basically, and incinerate, as they call it. It's this industry is full of euphemisms, like shit or sewage. It's biosolids.
Right, biosolids, of course.
We don't burn, we incinerate. We don't dump, we landfill.
This reminds me of our, so we've done a ton of sex books this year too. We had Rachel Feltman on, and we did Been There, Done That. And we also did Vagina Obscura. And I feel like this is the year Peculiar Book Club is just taking on taboos, apparently, because you're right, there's tons of euphemisms. And that's funny because Lorelei had just asked the group, she said, what's everyone's favorite saying involving poop? I grew up hearing, well, you can't polish a turd. And we have some people throwing out some other ones. Amberly says, does the Pope shit in the woods? I've not heard that one. I heard about bears.
Wow.
And it turns out you can polish a turd.
Wow. I have not heard that, the polish the turd. Wow. That I'm going to add it to my vocabulary, I guess. Favorite? I don't.
Yeah, I'm just looking to see if there's other ones in here.
A lot of favorites. I sort of created one, so I guess I'll go with that one. Humans love this shit.
Yes, humans love thy shit. Is that on a T-shirt? Because I feel like it really should be.
It's not. It's on that character, on that poop, super pooper character, that I created with like this funny little poop hat. And no, there it says humans love that shit. Yeah, there it goes. There it goes. Yeah,
there it is. Very nice. Very nice. We, it's Amanda Johnson said, I'm surprised FMTs haven't been co-opted by wellness influencers and aren't being sold for shit tons of money.
There's probably some medical reasons for that and a little bit of the yuck factor.
Yeah. Maybe.
I don't know. It's just waiting for its moment. I gotta tell you, kids who are teens right now have a very different attitude to all things food. They just think it's completely hilarious and the best thing since sliced bread. Totally, like poo emojis and whatnot. So I don't know. Give them another few years, maybe they will be the first who are going to do this. FMTs at home. I don't know.
FMTs at home.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not a good idea. Lorelai Peterson said her favorite, this is back to the list. Sorry, I was trying to collect some of these other ones about does a bear shit in the woods, but she says she once saw a baby bear pop a squat right at just shit in the middle of the road. So it turns out like, no, they poo in the road. We have a question about something.
Saw a bear poop, like seriously. They do it very fast. Yeah.
They fast.
Do it fast. Yeah, very fast. Like, and they're done.
In the woods, though, is it in the woods? That's the question.
That was a polar bear, so it wasn't within the tundra.
Right. No woods there. No woods. Back to, we had a question earlier about what was your favorite part of the book. And the other thing I know about books is that there's a lot of things you have to leave out. There's just not enough room. France asks, he said he has a recycling firm near Montreal and they recycle a lot of biosolids on farms and even have a waiting list. Is that something you just didn't have room to talk about, or did you feel like that was kind of moving in a different direction?
Wait, I missed. I didn't quite catch it.
Recycling about 100,000 tons of biosolids on farms. That there are people recycling, but it seems like is that kind of the same sort of thing, or is it more about human waste?
It's similar. So I sort of touched upon this. There is a chapter about a Canadian company that is figure out a way to recycle. Well, not recycle. Well, here we go with that sewage smoothie thing. How to they figured out a way to like take all this like poop and they load up into this big blender and they whip it into a sewage smoothie as they put it, and by doing so they kill a bunch of pathogens, and so it becomes sort of like to put it on the field. Well, I gotta tell you, the field of all things poo is so vast.
Yeah.
That it wasn't possible to fit everything in 80,000 words.
Yeah. Is there anything that you had to leave on the cutting room floor that you wish you could have gotten in there?
Yes. So I wanted to include some of the solutions that were created in India. So for starters, there's a whole museum of toilets in New Delhi, which is really awesome.
Wow.
There's toilets there from all kinds of ages and eras, and various drawings and what they used to be and whatnot. And as part of the toilet, it's called the Sulap Toilet Museum. They also feature several models of toilets that people use in rural India. That basically they look like latrines, but they're not, because they sort of direct the sewage like into somewhat of a composting pit, and once it fills up, they direct it into the second one. In the meantime, that waste undergoes some kind of a process in there, and once it's done, out comes this, basically you can call it fossilized poop. Okay.
Oh,
burns really nicely.
Lights.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of didn't make it there either. You can, it burns really nicely. You can cook with it. You can use it as fertilizer. And so I got there basically too late. I had 15. The other thing was time. I had 15 months to write this book.
Yeah.
And I had to go to a lot of different places and talk to a lot of different people. And once you start sort of, you're scheduling it all out, suddenly you're out of time. I wanted to go to a couple of other countries, and I was like completely out of time. All of that really, takes time that you don't. Do you think you have, but then you don't.
Yeah. So, don't say these things to me. I'm like, I've got 15 months left on the book that I'm writing right now, and I'm like, oh, it's not enough time.
It's not. Yeah, time was really fast. So I got to that museum late when my book was basically written. Already with my editor, and I squeezed it like in bits and pieces here and there. So I don't think that what I squeezed in was like me standing there with this fossilized poop in my hands thinking, this is kind of cool, because it doesn't really look poopy, but it is obviously poop. It doesn't smell like poop at all anymore. And then we we put it in a container and we set it on fire, and it like burns and all that stuff. So
that's crazy. It's just fascinating, because we don't think, we all we think of is, oh, I don't want to be around that. We don't think about all the complexities and everything. And there's so much fascinating material. And if you guys haven't read it yet, there's so much fascinating material in here. And I know you've left things out. Like you could probably write a sequel. It could be like Pooh 2. I feel like number 2. We would just call it number 2. but seriously, it's just so good. There's so much to do. A couple other people are throwing in some more things that they have heard. Don't shit where you eat. I've heard that one too. Amanda Johnson says, eat shit and die was popular when I was a kid. Yeah. Would you die if you ate shit?
Probably not. The thing is that, it also depends whose. If you eat your own, I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe you would end up with an upset, but maybe not, because as long as you're healthy, once the bacteria that in your poo, it's kind of like your native bacteria. I suppose they shouldn't be. They should be in your large intestines, but not in your small intestine. But will they really kill you? I don't think so.
It's hard to say, I guess, but it's such a fascinating.
Don't try this at home.
Don't try this at home. Some things you don't want to do at home. This is actually hot cocoa. It's not, I'm not getting experimental. Speaking of experiments though, we have one coming up. So, in fact, I'm just going to, dogs eat shit and don't die. That's true.
Exactly.
That's true. They have slightly different stomachs than we do, but I agree. Mr. Hanky. So several people are now talking a little bit about South Park. So
I looked into this because of course I did, and South Park did an almost perfect episode of a fecal transplant episode called Turd Burglars.
Yeah,
but I mean they nailed it here. They so of course they push it too far. The one woman here has C. diff and gets a fecal transplant, but then she feels so great she tells all the other women about it, and now they all want fecal transplants to feel as great as she does. So of course they push it too far.
Okay.
Right.
Of course.
They decide that Tom Brady must have the most perfect poo of anyone. So they need to steal Tom Brady's poo, and it'd be the magic cure for all diseases. And he's secretly been collecting it in jars because he knew this. Like I said, they push it too far, but they totally nailed the C. diff part and the fecal transplant part.
So,
which is awesome.
Should touch a little bit upon like the history of poo management, because there's a couple of really cool pictures that I'd like our viewers to see. And so when like I said in the beginning, the part that really fascinated me the most was how diligent, organized, and appreciative of poo were the Chinese and the Japanese societies in like the 16 and the 1700s. So they they had this amazing operations. They had this specialized pickup services that went through this really big cities like in Osaka, and several big cities in China, and they would collect poo from buckets that residents would put out the door in the morning, hence the term night soil. They would collect it, they would load it up in carts, they would take it to their ports and sail it into the countryside. And I really wanted people to see that night soil carrier. It's a black and white photo with a woman who has like 2 buckets that she's carrying on a pole, which actually is so similar to how my grandfather used to do, except like his pole wasn't straight, but it was sort of curved when he did it. So they sell it into the countryside where they would spread it, dry it, sort it, and process it and sell it then. And amazingly enough, not all poo was created equal, because it came from the city's elite, sold to the highest bidder because supposedly they had better diets, and so they had
better, more nutritious poop.
So
I love this.
The Japanese had a special name for that substance that came out of us. They call it shimogoi, which meant fertilizer from the bottom of a person. So this whole thing was so completely and totally fascinating.
Jennifer here says, I love the idea that Japanese people used to believe pooping at their home was akin to leaving a gift. She says, well, I have IBS. I promise none of my friends feel that way.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. I did not know that when I started working on the book, and when I found out this fact, I was just like, wow.
That is awesome. Well, we're going to take a little break for some music, a little musical interlude. And then when we come back, it's probably time for us to get experimental, because Davey has a little special something for us today. So onward to the music.
Howdy, folks. My name is Aaron J. Shea. I'll be your musical guest today. This one's called The Black Pill Blues. Hope you enjoy it. I wake up and check the weather to see if I can breathe outside today. I look out my window at the blood red sky and think of all the bills I still have to pay. Infection rates are rising, my mind is catastrophizing. Seems like nothing's ever gonna go my way. One pill makes you larger, and one pill makes you small. But the black pill makes you realize civilization's bound to fall. We live in a society, but how long will that hold true? When you catch yourself thinking that Blade Runner is optimistic, you got the black pill blues. Well, reading the news won't do you no good, but it'll fuel a futile rage. Seems like a parade of bright red flags is waving on every single page. There's no help coming down from the top, and the crises ain't ever gonna stop. And ain't much room for revolution in my wage. The blue pill makes you dream, and the red pill makes you woke. But the black pill makes you realize civilization is a joke. We live in a society, optimistic. You got the black pill blues. When I'm feeling down and out about the way things have been going wrong, found some ways to cure my blues and keep my spirits strong. Tending to a garden, learning some kind of new skill, lending a neighbor a helping hand, cures all kinds of ills. One pill puts you at ease, and another pill balls your fist. But the black pill makes you realize civilization don't exist. We live in a society, but how long will that hold true? When you catch yourself thinking that what a world is optimistic, you got the black pill blues. Black pill blues. The black pill blues. Yeah, wasn't that uplifting?
I figured, a song for crappy times would be appropriate for today's show. And I know some of us had crappy weeks. So this is just the right time and the right place for a little uplifting shit.
Actually, he managed to sing it in such an uplifting way.
He did. Kind of funny. If any of you need another lift, like we've got this, he's settled down now. So Darwin is here. He's here for you guys in all of his fuzziness. Oh, now I'm not going to be able to get that straight again, probably. So, Lina, after reading your book and learning a lot about science, Davey decided to try something new.
Yes, I did. A couple of YouTube explainer videos later, I present my science experiment to the Peculiar Book Club. Well, Peculiars, Kenobi has helped us make a lot of fun videos, but never like this. We're going to do a little science experiment here, and we're going to see if we can turn Kenobi's dog waste, his poop, into some kind of bioenergy, some biofuel. We're going to make an anaerobic digester for dog waste. Let's get to work. All right, Peculiars, here are all the supplies we're going to need to get this science experiment off the ground. I'm probably going to have to run and get some other things. We're going to start by drilling out a hole in the bottle. Of course, the drill bit I needed was missing, so I made it work. Now we're going to screw in the nozzle into the lid and put a little bit of plumber's caulk in there to seal in the freshness. All right, time to cut some lengths of hose. Of course, this would be 10 times harder than I thought it would be, and yes, I am wearing pajamas while I'm doing this at 10 o'clock at night. All right, now we got some hose clamps here that we're going to use to seal down. This is the T-valve where our balloon is going to go. All right, let's put a few more hose clamps on. Let's really get everything in there nice and tight. No leaks in this experiment. And finally, the balloon goes on the nozzle of the T-valve here. I've made many water balloons in my day, so I know what I'm doing here. And why not a few zip ties to really hold that balloon on tight. All right, I think we've got everything connected, all our hoses and nozzles. Let's get this thing set up. There's only one thing left to do, and that's Kenobi's job. We're out in the garage now. Yep, rolling our sleeves up. It's time for the dirty work. Should I have been wearing gloves for this? Yes, probably. Did I wash my hands obsessively for the next 10 minutes? Yes. Yes, I did. All right, we emptied about 4 poop bags in there. I'm going to save you the watching all that. Grab a stick and start mixing. Was I going to use my good Vitamix blender for this? No, a stick should be good enough. There we go. We've got all the pieces and parts together. Let's check day 1. Not much action in the balloon. Day 2. All right. Maybe the neck is filling out a little bit. Day 3. I am not encouraged by this. This does not look good. Okay, clearly I have a leak somewhere, and clearly that balloon is not inflated with biogas. But is there enough gas in the line that I can actually light the torch? All right, Peculiars. The balloon might not have inflated, but if there's any gas in this line at all, then hopefully we can get this thing to light. Let's give it a try. Well, Peculiars, I don't know if we have a leak in the hose somewhere. I don't know if it's a bad balloon, but I got no torch. I guess the only thing left to do is to do the Mythbusters ending. We got to go bigger. Now that is what was supposed to happen. You know what? This isn't big enough. We gotta go bigger. And I challenge the Peculiars if they know what movie that's from. Yeah. There you go. Yep, Lethal Weapon 2.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
You know what? And maybe I should have blended it. Maybe I should have just bought a $15 blender and blended it. Maybe I don't know. Maybe because I did it in the cold. If it was warm and it got heated up, like they did with mirrors, maybe I would have gotten something there. But that balloon just, I don't know where the gas went, but it didn't go into the balloon.
Well, I actually do have a gas. So the thing is that for that to happen, you have to inoculate poo with specific bacteria that are going to chew through it, and you probably didn't have enough.
Yeah, I honestly thought about digging up some worms from the garden and putting them in there, but yeah, I did. Yeah, I'm learning. I'm a scientist that's learning.
Oh my god.
Okay. In particular, you need methanogens. Like that's specific. Yeah, but you need like a whole host of them because like it's complicated. Bacteria A chews this and poops out X, and then bacteria B chews X and poops out Y, and bacteria C chews that and poops out Z, and then the end result of it is biogas.
So the answer girl's like, your wife Maggie must have been really thrilled.
We won't tell her how much I spent on all those valves and hoses.
I'm sorry but watching you, I was losing my shit actually. Watching you put this together. You guys can't see me when I'm off the screen, but I was dying because see, I'm married to an engineer, as you all know. Lady Paws, by the way, is not here, which is why I decided I've been sad. So, he's not here to take care of me, and I almost starve to death when he's not around. But he works on projects all the time, and it's always like we live pretty close to Home Depot. And so it's like, no, I have everything I need. And then you hear the garage door open, you hear the garage door close. You're like, okay, and he's back. You hear the garage door open. Yep. You hear the garage door close.
There were like 10 trips up and down the basement stairs. I need another tool. Nope, need a different tool for this. Lina, I think you could use this as a selling point that you can assure people this is not a how-to book, but it definitely is good at getting people interested in it.
I love it. I love it. That was the best. That was awesome. Okay, I have some questions that popped up in the feed that I starred, and I have to go back and find now. Hang on. Yes, it's convenient that they all go in the same place, at least. Yes, Leanne had asked, how useful is studying sewage and determining the extent and severity of COVID in different localities? I know you talked a little bit about how poop ends up being useful to track things.
Yeah, I mean, during COVID, this whole sewage surveillance took on a life on its own. I was writing the book before COVID, and even then there was some COVID, some sewage surveillance, but during COVID it became like a thing because they were like they on college campuses, as you probably all read. They were able to determine in what dorm there were kids sick with COVID, even if they weren't sick.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Even if they didn't feel sick, you mean? Like even if they didn't have symptoms?
They didn't feel sick, but it was in their poo or pee or whatever. And they could then go and, isolate those kids so they wouldn't infect other kids.
And then Anthro Girl, she followed that up. She said, do you think that type of tracking will take off and be used for other things? It's like they found polio in the wastewater treatment.
So polio, they've been checking for polio in sewage since I think 1950s. We just actually never knew because who the hell was gonna wonder what a sewage plant is doing, right? Nobody looks into sewage for anything. It's like the ultimate waste crap shit. We don't go near it. In India, they do very actively do sewage surveillance for polio even before COVID, because they finally managed to eradicate it about, I think now would be like 8 years. And so they literally like keep guard, like if it pops up anywhere, they immediately go to that area and vaccinate all kids.
Yeah. And then Amanda and a couple other people said that there's Amanda said that the Salt Lake Tribune's Robert Girk, is that how you pronounce his name? Does poop watch updates to let us know if COVID is decreasing, increasing. It's pretty amazing, because we don't think of. There was a whole. We missed it. It was earlier when the song was going on, but there was a whole conversation in here about stealing poop of presidents. There was a whole Cold War discussion over here in the chat about stealing presidents' poops during the Cold War to find out if they were ill or to find out if they had something. I missed part of it because I was watching the song guy, but that so there's a lot going on poo wise. I think it's DNA. We don't think about it as DNA. Yes. Amanda says Gurky rhymes with turkey. Thank you. So yeah, it's basically it's DNA. I mean, it contains biomarkers, and we're so used to thinking of it as something that we don't. Well, no, we're so used to not thinking about it. I guess that's the real truth. Yeah. Well, I want to ask you about the Thames River because I was fascinated by this story when I was in graduate school because I was studying the 19th century. So they called it the Big Stink.
Oh yes. The Great Stink of London, or something like that.
That was it.
Yeah.
So what happened?
So what happened was that by the 1800s, the London elite, and maybe not even the elite, and whatever was the equivalent of the middle class back then, started installing flushing toilets that were replacing the cesspools and outhouses and whatnot. And all in all, it seemed like a good idea. It was cleaner. It took the excrement out of houses much faster, and also that allowed all these lords and ladies to appear godlike to their servants, that who no longer had to take their chamber pots out the door. They would just pull the flush, and the excrement would disappear. Actually, I should probably say that the first modern flushing toilets was built not by an engineer but by a poet who was a queen's cousin and got banished from the court for writing poems that she didn't like. And while being in Bath, it's kind of interesting. I don't know if the name had anything to do with it, but he got inspired by something, traded his pen for some plumbing tools to build the first flushing toilet where you'd have to open one lever, pull the other, and the water would come flushing down and would take the excrement out of the dwelling somewhere, but probably not very far. So the queen came, liked it, wanted one, installed it at her house, and a couple of 100 years later, that's how long it took, everybody wanted it. So
oh my God.
A British engineer named Thomas Crapper, we have a really awesome slide, let's put it up, perfected it to the point that anybody could install it. Yeah, I love that slide. It's just so awesome.
Thomas Crapper. No idea.
Registered ornamental flush down water closet. Who wouldn't want this thing? Think about it. This is 1800s. You've got a long dress, and to go shit, you have to go outside of your dwelling and find a latrine someplace, right? So it's this ultimate convenience. So they installed a whole bunch of them, and they started flushing the excrement down the pipes. There was also a discussion of what to do with all this shit. Where would it go? And there was this discussion between two groups of people who suggested that we should have two different systems, one for shit and one for stormwater. So they would go to separate ways. And I call this group of people sewage separatists. It didn't take because it would be double the money, double the work. It's pretty complicated. So they built one that's called combined sewage system. That's what most of the world has today, where all goes together, same pipe, same place. And where did it all go in London? Into the Thames. And I don't remember how many people. It is in my book, but I don't remember how many people were in London at the time. But the Thames could absorb only so much sewage. And so what happened that eventually the river started to stink. It stunk because there was so much sewage in it that it literally accumulated on the banks, and boats would stuck aground on it, into that. People didn't want to cross the river on bridges.
No.
If you took some water from it, somebody did an experiment. Speaking of experiments, they took some water from the Thames, and turned out it was so black that you could use it as ink.
Oh, very smelly ink.
Yeah, probably very smelly ink. So that's what created the Great Stink of London, because all of that just went into the Thames.
Yeah. Well, here in Cleveland, I used to do some history I worked at a history museum in Cleveland, and one of the things that you find out is that the reason the water intake is 5 miles out is because everyone kept getting cholera because we were dumping sewage into the lake and getting our drinking water out of the lake. And so they were tracing it to different pumps and well houses and various intake valves. So they built this enormous crib out there 5 miles away, thinking, well, they didn't go, we should stop flushing waste into the lake. They were like, hey, we should get our water from further towards Canada. We'll take some Canadian water from them and we'll use that. And it's fascinating, right? Because they actually decided to have a water treatment plant. So I love this part of history. One of their health advisors, and I've forgotten his name, in Cleveland was like, look, I think we need to treat the water with what was essentially chlorine. It wasn't called that, but he's like, we need to treat the water with this, and we need to make the water clean again so that people won't get sick. So he treats the water to get rid of the pathogens so people stop dying of cholera. But everybody complained that it smelled like bleach. And so they went, it smelled before, but not like bleach. But they preferred that. They preferred the stinky, smelly, maybe a little bit sewagey water than to the bleach water. So they stopped the program. So it's fascinating. And now here in Euclid, they're actually separating the storm drains and the sewage drains. It's been a project that's been going on now for 6 years.
Wow. Yeah, in New York we still have combined. It's just very difficult to change.
Yeah,
Louis heritage.
Didn't they? I'm having a flashback to an earlier book. Didn't they track down one of the water pipes that was giving everyone cholera because a woman traveled 4 streets over because she said she liked the taste from that pipe?
You mean in London or?
Yeah, in London. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm remembering that from another book.
Yeah, because because Snow he tracked cholera to one of the pumps there. Because the thing is, it's not as though, people get this wrong. They think during the Middle Ages and the medieval period, everybody was so dirty, or it was dirty in Rome and Greece. No, it was dirty in the 19th century. We got dirty. It was much, much more filthy in the 18th and 19th century. And then you add in industrial waste too, and you've got, all that stuff mixing together. So the other thing that I wanted to ask you, I'm trying to think of how best to phrase this really, but how, if we want waste that is useful, it can't be contaminated with chemical, you know what I mean? How do we separate industrial waste from the good waste that we can put in our gardens?
That is a huge problem. So I'm sure, a lot of people heard that was the Broad Street problem. So the world is talking about PFAS right now. Yes, he doesn't got that thing. The world is talking about PFAS right now. And the sewage industry is really feeling this problem because they feel like they're blamed for PFAS being in sewage. And if there are PFAS in sewage, then you can't put this in on the fields, even if everything else is, even if your plant has a way of doing it and has been doing so nicely and cleanly, and now we've got PFAS. And like, what do you do with it now if you can't put it into the fields? If you have been doing so for the past 5 years, you have to burn it again. That's like a step back into the Middle Ages. So, and that's a problem. However, there still are some plants that are able to do it and some are not. It depends where they get their wastewater, and it's also not up to them where to get their wastewater. When contractors build things, they just add pipes, and these pipes lead to whatever. So if you are a sewage plant that is getting your water from a bunch of household like you and me, the amount of these PFAS and generally really bad industrial chemicals is fairly small.
Okay.
Probably like it's so little that it doesn't really matter. I'll come back to that in a second. However, if you're getting your sewage input from factories that are that creating some plastic utensils or whatever, it's going to be a shit ton of PFAS in that, and then you can't use.
Then you can't use it.
Exactly. So how do you separate? Well, maybe you can separate, like you would know which sewage plant is doing what. There are also ways to destroy chemicals. Unfortunately, it takes fossil fuels, because basically what you do, you cook it at some ungodly temperatures and pressures where everything breaks down.
Right.
Generally, sewage plants, they can't, but by doing so, they can destroy also a lot of other chemicals like antibiotics, hormones and other things. But it adds that step, cooking step. It's probably still worth it, because at the end you end up with a product that can continue that circular ecology kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really moved by what you said about how we deplete the soil, we don't put back, and it's really true. It's ridiculous. We make this extra step of throwing chemicals in it instead, which is crazy. I just noticed the time, we're getting long, so let's end tonight with our quiz, with our fantastic Peculiars will help us out quiz. And Davey is famous for these, so I'm excited. Davey, take it away.
Well, in enjoying the book and thinking about the subject of poop, Hollywood really, really loves including poop jokes, poop scenes in their movies. So the quiz this week, and Peculiars help her out on this one, it's called That's One Big Pile of Shit. The famous line from Jeff Goldblum in the movie Jurassic Park. Oh, so these are 3 questions about movies. They're multiple choice, and the Peculiars will help you out in the chat. So in Jurassic Park, the guests encounter a sick dinosaur and have to search through its poop for clues. What type of dinosaur left the large pile of shit that caused Jeff Goldblum to say his iconic line, "That is one big pile of shit"? Was it A, a Spinosaurus? Was it B, a Stegosaurus? Or C, a Triceratops?
Oh, we've got guesses coming in from the Peculiars. Stephanie says C. Amanda says C. Anthro Girl says C. A lot of C's.
Somehow I'm thinking C also.
The answer is yes, it was a Triceratops, a poor sick Triceratops. I believe
she gets her hand all the way in
does.
it. Yeah.
I mean, as soon as I thought poop scenes in movies, I was like, Jurassic Park. All right. Moving on to question number 2. In the comedy Caddyshack, the pool at Bushwood Country Club is hilariously cleared out when this type of candy bar is mistaken for a duty. Is it A, a Baby Ruth, B, a Snickers, or C, an Almond Joy?
Oh.
Yeah. What do you think? And duty is definitely their word. That's the first child that sees it screams out, "Duty!" And then the whole pool clears out.
Okay, A, Lexi says it's a Baby Ruth. A, Jennifer Pierce says it's Baby Ruth. Mindy says it's a Baby Ruth. Tori says it's, yep, we got a lot of Baby Ruths happening here.
These are pretty popular scenes. I'm not surprised the Peculiars are on top of things. What do you say, Lina? What's your final answer?
No clue.
You gotta go with
A, because everybody else said A, but I've got no clue.
All right. The answer is yes, a Baby Ruth candy bar. Which Bill Murray hilariously eats once he finds it at the bottom of the pool.
Amberly says we always yelled that when we found a floater in the neighborhood. Baby Ruth duty. It's a very strange movie. There's a gopher.
All right, question number 3. Let's see how the Peculiars do on this one. In the movie Bridesmaids, the women experience a horrific episode of food poisoning, including vomiting and diarrhea while trying on bridesmaids' dresses. What type of restaurant made them sick? Was it A, a Japanese hibachi, B, a Brazilian steakhouse, or C, Mexican tacos?
Okay, I don't know any. I have not seen this movie, but some of our Peculiars are, let's see, we got C from Stephanie Smith, B from Kristen Meston, B from Amanda Johnson. Amberly just pops in to say to this day she's never eaten a Baby Ruth for all the reasons. We got a lot more B's coming up. Another C.
If you notice, they were all nut-based candy bars that I chose.
They were. Okay, a lot of
we've got
B's and C's. I don't know. We've got B's and C's here.
Lina, you're looking like you haven't seen this movie either.
No, I haven't seen this movie. I think it's Japanese hibachi.
She's thinking Japanese hibachi. The Peculiars are going a lot of B's in there. The answer is yes, B, a Brazilian steakhouse. Yes, a Brazilian steakhouse.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it does not end well for those poor women.
No. Kristen says this is one of the funniest, grossest scenes of all time.
Absolutely.
All right, I gotta watch that movie. For that scene, if nothing else.
Absolutely.
They actually wanted to cut that scene. Apparently.
I mean, it is a shocking scene in the middle of the movie. It really.
But they're breaking taboos. Pooping in the sink. Okay. So I wasn't aware of that. You got to go somewhere, I guess. It's coming out of me like lava. You guys know this movie really well.
You know this scene. Yes, they do. I mean, yeah, a lot of SNL alums in this movie. You got Melissa McCarthy.
Okay. I do love her.
Some good stuff in there.
You know, I'm not a big movie watcher. It's a thing with me, but thank God we have you, Davey, because you're on top of it.
There was no point in me asking you the science questions. You were the expert on the science questions.
You know what? Actually, it's really funny. Mary Roach, I believe, the first quiz you ever did, she nailed it, and then the next time she didn't get a single one. Oh. Lots of SNL actresses, Stephanie says. Okay, you guys might make me see this movie now. I was,
this one is definitely worth sitting through. I know movies are tough for you, but
yeah, I was forced to. Well, also Bridesmaids. That's a sensitive subject. I had to do that once for my brother because there weren't enough. There were like an excess of, so I had to be a bridesmaid on the bride side.
On the bride side,
which was and they were all like 5 feet tall, and so I just and blonde, and I just looked like Amazon Queen of the Bridesmaids. Like, it was very strange. It was just like me, and they put me in the middle, so it was like boop boop boop, and that was I was just this massive dark haired.
We'll have to find a book out there about the history of wedding traditions or something like that, and maybe we could see a photo of Brandy as a bridesmaid.
Let's not. I was like, can I just be a groomsman? I can tell. I rock a suit. I mean, I rock a suit. My best friend told me that my Twitter feed is like a thirst trap for lesbians, which I take as a huge compliment. So I was just like, I could have done a suit, but it's probably the haircut. All right. I also have a lot of puppies. Okay. Any last questions? Because we are running short on time here, guys. Any last questions for Lina? Lina, this has been amazing having you on. You don't understand how much I enjoyed this book. Like, it's got everything. It's got ecology. It has history. It has science. It has gross things. It has weird facts about weird people doing weird shit. Literally, I loved it so much.
I do love the books where, like, on the drive home, you're listening to it, and you're like, you get home, and you're like, I gotta tell you about this chapter. I gotta tell you about the story I just heard. Like,
I know. And Mark's
we're gonna eat dinner and talk about this.
Mark's not here, so he's going to get home, and I'm going to be like, "You have to read this." And of course, I listen to this on tape too, so it's a running gag that I tend to fall off the treadmill when I'm really struck by something, because that's when I listen. I also deeply admire your use of language, because it wasn't like, because you could have like gone full South Park and just done everything with a pun and everything was shit and all that. No, you used it artistically. Like, it was in that. You guys really need to see this.
Amberly Smith is challenging us.
Oh, what do you think about all those companies that have been making beer from reclaimed poop waters?
It's a marketing trick, and yes, you can drink that, because by the time it gets to you, there is nothing there that's gonna kill you. But it is an awesome marketing trick. Like, seriously, I mean, that reclaimed poop water, where do you think it goes? It goes into the environment. It becomes river water, lake water. Eventually, it comes back to us. It's purified in whatever city standards there are, and you drink it. You drink it anyway.
That's so funny.
It comes to you in the form of poop beer.
Poop beer.
Exactly.
I love it. That's just, marketing is not everybody can do marketing. I'm kind of crap at marketing, actually. I'm just more like, come to our book club. It's fun. So basically, thank you all for being here. Thank you for joining us, Lina. I hope you'll come back. I hope you'll write another book about something equally fascinating, and we can have you on again. We love having repeat performances. And thank all of you for being here. Lina, any last words to leave us with?
Any last words? Well,
that's why I got to make this true.
I have so many last words. Well, what you said about the poop puns, partially, the things partially go to my editor, who was like really careful and took some of them out, which was a good thing. But here's what I'm going to leave you with, and that's like would be a really cool publishing story. So because Chicago University Press is an academic press, I had to have 4 people read the book as in peer review process, and they all gave different feedback, and the book ultimately got better. But one of them, he probably had 3 PhDs. Oh, I have no clue. Like, that person probably had 3 PhDs to their name. Wrote something like this, that one thing that was confusing about the book and the language was the fact that they use so many different words to describe the same substance: poop, shit, poo, dung, human manure, and so on. I probably have 20 different synonyms, and it would be much better if I just picked one and stuck with it.
No, wrong. They are incorrect.
No. That was a funny.
Oh my gosh, that is funny. I've only done one academic press book, and yeah, you hear some interesting. I always sort of make a guess at who's behind it. I put together a little composite of what I think that person is probably like, but you never really know. I like the variety too. Whoops, we're both doing it, aren't we? Sorry. There we go. Yeah. I like the variety, says Tori. And the Anthro Girl says, variety is the spice of life. Oh, and to finish, Stephanie Smith says, Lina is an absolute unit on the subject matter of poop. All right. And with that, thank you all for, I just hit the mic again, sorry. Thank you for joining us at a place where, if you're weird, you're family.
You got the blue